Tessa. Yeah, kind of high. Oh. Testing, testing. That's too loud for you, man. Doc.
Welcome, welcome. We're going to get started here in a moment. It is now 12 noon, and in respect for the folks who are joining us online, we will get started promptly. Thanks to all of you who've joined us in person here today. We really appreciate your attendance. So welcome to Vance-Granville Community College's inaugural observance of Juneteenth. Last year, President Biden made Juneteenth a federal holiday. Juneteenth now accompanies other federal holidays such as New Year's, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Veterans Day, and Columbus Day, just to name a few. I believe there are now 11. The college is open during some of the federal holidays, so a holiday is not always observed with time off. This year, the college's Board of Trustees and my executive team decided we would observe this holiday in a way that was consistent with our core business of education. Today, we invite our students, employees, and community members together for an informative session to learn more about Juneteenth. I welcome Jason Spriggs as our guest speaker today. Jason Spriggs is a city councilman at large for the city of Henderson, North Carolina. He lives on the east side of Henderson, but answers to and represents all 15,000 of Henderson's residents. He is a proud father, having raised 5 children, one who serves in the United States Air Force, and 3 currently teenagers completing their middle and high school education. In fact, his daughter is here with him today, and welcome. Jason has devoted his life to serving the public, creating ways to destroy poverty and uplift communities, and encouraging others to live their best life possible. Councilman Spriggs, please, I welcome you. Come tell us more about Juneteenth and why it's important to you.
Happy Friday. Happy Friday. And it's hot. That's my fault. I brought it with me. I'm seeing people I know. I'm just waving. Hey, sure. Damn. I grew up in Louisiana, and during the summer, 100-degree days were common. And it was real humid. You always sweated. So I brought the heat with me, so I apologize for that. So it's good to see everybody, and thank you for filling the seats, and I thank you for everybody who's watching online. This is going to be recorded and on YouTube, and I think it's going to be a great resource. This is informational, right, to really just kind of talk about Juneteenth, really what it's about. But there's a lot of this, a lot of me is in this as well. So, you know, I will say this, I'm going to brag on the city of Henderson for a minute, because recently the city council approved, with the support of our mayor and our city manager, Juneteenth being a locally recognized holiday for city government employees. Thank you. So Monday, City Hall is not open. And the employees that are home will be enjoying a paid day with their families. And I used to work for the city. And honestly, regardless of what they're doing on Monday, whether they're celebrating or just relaxing, as a city worker, when you have a day off and you get paid, you know, you don't care what the day is about. You're glad to be home with your family. So just wanted to lead off by saying that the city of Henderson is very supportive of Juneteenth. And, you know, I'll tell you this, just because I'm a person of color doesn't mean that I honestly knew a lot about Juneteenth. You know, I'm 40, turning 41 in August. And when I was younger, we didn't even know much about slavery. I have a great aunt who travels back and forth to Africa to connect with our family members and relatives because we're from a certain region in Africa. So she was like the encyclopedia of the family. So, and she's still living, she's still kicking. So, you know, a lot of times she would share information about our heritage, about slavery. But honestly, growing up in the 80s, you know, it was mentioned, but something changed. Now, from the 80s, something changed. What changed was a movie called Roots, and it was a book. And I remember my parents sitting me down, me and my brother in the living room, and forcing us to watch the whole series. It's a long series. And I was horrified. I was like, why are you making me watch this? It's crazy, you know, it's insane, but we learned a lot. So I say that to say is, just because I'm a person of color doesn't mean I know everything that has to do with black culture. But there are some things before I talk about Juneteenth that I do want to share that I know 100% certain of, and I don't want any debate from any of the very smart people that I'm looking at, okay? So I just want to share the things I do know 100%. So one thing I know 100% is that coffee is the best form of water that we have, okay? Thank you, Danny. I got a thumbs up. Do we have some LeBron James fans? Big fan? Okay, I'm going to say this. I don't want any debate. Remember, this is fact. LeBron James is the second best. I'm sorry. We know who the first is, right? I need to say? Michael Jordan. This is a given, right? So those are the things that I know for certain. So no debate. I don't want to discuss it after. That's just the way it is. So Juneteenth. Juneteenth is also known as Freedom Day. June 19th, 1865 was when Major General Gordon Granger of the Union Army and his troops made their way into Galveston, Texas, to inform the state and the slaves that they had been freed. And I'm going to read what he said. And as I read this, just keep in mind that Texas is like a country within itself, right? And I did live in Texas for a small period of time, and you know, Texas believe, you know, strongly in their state. I think there's over 250 counties or, you know, areas in Texas. It's a vast space. So this what was read had to be read throughout the state for a period of over about a year. And this is what General Gordon Granger said. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the executive of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. And that was read. So he was tasked with reading this throughout Texas. That took about a year. Now, June 19th, 1865 was when they arrived in Galveston, and you know, if you do the math, and I'm pretty sure y'all have done it already, This is about 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. So the Emancipation Proclamation was January 1st, 1865, and in order for that Emancipation Proclamation to actually go into effect, the Union actually had to win the war. So a lot of things had to happen to really get to the point of freedom for everybody. Juneteenth, the name comes from obviously kind of a combination of June 19th, again 1865, when the general came into Galveston. He was there to announce freedom to about 250,000 enslaved individuals in Texas. So about 250,000 people in Texas still had not realized that they were free. They were free. 250,000. So a lot of people didn't know. Later that year, we get an amendment, I think, that has gained a lot of attention recently, which was the 13th Amendment. It was ratified later that year that officially declared enslavement unconstitutional. And, ladies and gentlemen, that's what happened. So, that was Juneteenth. So I think just some things to think about as well, again, when I just think about Juneteenth as a whole and finding out that you are free, what if we didn't know we were free? Or what if in this audience we didn't know we were free? And what was at stake? Why was it such a big deal for them to know? What did this new freedom allow them to do that they once could not do? What if we didn't know we were free? What would we do? And what is freedom to us, actually? What does it mean to us? Black, white, rich, poor, doesn't matter. Why did it take so long for them to find out they were free? Freedom comes in many forms. So, I wasn't a slave. So as much as I can empathize as a person of color even, I don't know. I mean, I grew up in a two-parent home. I was very privileged. None of my friends had a two-parent home, and we were some bad kids. We really were, for sure. We were some bad kids. But I had a two-parent home. I had love. I had a mother who spoiled me, very spoiled child. So, even as a person of color, as much as I want to empathize, I don't know what that feels like to be bound. But there are some things I think I can think about, maybe, that would make me relate better. Some freedoms that we have. How about financial freedoms? We can relate to that. Okay? What if we didn't know that we could be financially free? And our whole lives we worked and toiled and gained debt and never thought about even actually getting out of that cycle, never gave it thought, didn't have the resources, didn't have the knowledge. How about there's another freedom we can all relate to. It doesn't have anything to do with race, color, gender, orientation. How about freedom from ignorance? And that is synonymous with education. What if we couldn't get an education? What if we couldn't get a degree? What if we couldn't teach others in a classroom what we've learned? What if this educational institution that we're at, Vance-Granville Community College, didn't exist? What if it wasn't an option for our children? They had to work and labor like we worked and labored. Freedom from judgment. We can understand that, right? What if we lived in a society to where we really couldn't voice what we thought? I have a friend who's in Africa, who's from Africa, and in that region of Africa, they have a king and queen still, and they have a form of government that's similar to ours. But you know how in this country we're able to say anything we want about the president, the governor, law enforcement, our neighbor. We just say it, we can just put it out there on social media. They don't do that. And they really think it's one of the strangest things to be able to do that. But that's our freedom of speech. So when I think about those freedoms, I always wonder, what if we didn't know we were even able to have those things? Unless somebody came and informed us about that. Mrs. Opal Lee is a name we should probably remember when it has to do with Juneteenth. This is a phenomenal woman, and I think at this point as we're speaking, she's at the age of 95, 96 maybe, who took it upon herself some time ago to push for federal legislation for Juneteenth. And she actually started by walking, I think, from where she was in the Texas area to Washington, D.C., to gain recognition and support. And recently, when the president signed Juneteenth into federal law, if I'm not mistaken, she was there. She was there. And I say that to say, in order for somebody to know they're free, somebody has to let them know. Somebody has to let them know. Interesting thing I learned about the general that came and freed the slaves, he was an educator. Before he began his military career, he was a teacher. And doesn't education do that? Makes you question. It makes you really analyze. And then once you realize these true things, what does it make you want to do? Go tell somebody else. And I don't think it was a coincidence that he was tasked with doing that and was able to do it effectively. So what do I do if I have normally celebrated the independence of America on July 4th? Now we have Juneteenth. Do I celebrate both separately? Do I celebrate one and not the other? I'll tell you what I found out that was interesting. So there's a flag. There's a Juneteenth flag. And it's called the flag of freedom. And it has some symbolism. So this is what it means. It has half red and half blue color with a star in the middle. The white star stands for not only Texas, but it also represents freedom. There's a bursting nova around the star area, and it's a new star. It represents a new beginning. There's an arc on the flag as well. It represents new horizons and new beginnings as well. And if you look at the flag, if you've never seen it, the colors are red, white, and blue. And that stands, according to those who helped create this flag, as a reminder that slaves and their descendants are indeed Americans. Now, that's what the flag means. No separation. It's important we have these dialogues because oftentimes what I believe is when there's something newly introduced that has to do with a group that has been disadvantaged or marginalized, a lot of people may see it as a form of separation. But according to those who made this flag, it was important for them to portray or to say that the slaves and the descendants of the slaves were all Americans. And that's what they wanted us to know. Do I celebrate Juneteenth? Well, you know, I'll tell you this. We have a lot of celebrations this weekend. And as a public official, I'm usually at any celebration if I can make it. One is right down the street from my house. We have a mural, Benny King mural, and there's a Father's Day celebration. I'm a proud father, so, you know, I'm there. I think they're giving away free food. You know. So I'm there. You know, I think what I realized, everybody, that when it comes to Juneteenth, it's not really just about a celebration. It's a reflection. It's a reflection. And what I truly believe is that if I'm free and you are not free, then we really, as a country, are not able to celebrate true freedom. Dr. Rachel mentioned my view on poverty. My view is if I'm wealthy in spirit, so if I'm wealthy, but my neighbor is poor, I don't really feel that wealthy. This is how I see this reflection. If blacks on one part of the country were free to walk, to marry, to dream, to travel, to explore, to educate, to celebrate, and on the other side of the country, we really did not gain true freedom, enslaved people, until everybody in the state of Texas knew that they were free. And it all makes sense to me. It all makes sense to me. Do we celebrate Juneteenth in our home? Well, my daughter's here. I can't lie. I'd be like, yeah, we celebrate. We got everything up already. You know, we haven't. Does it mean that I don't recognize that my ancestors went through a lot? Were done unjustly? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means that maybe next year I'll reconsider how I celebrate Juneteenth. Or maybe this year. You know, hopefully my children don't judge me differently. Hopefully my neighbor doesn't judge me differently. Yes. Now I'm speaking from a perspective, obviously, of I am a person of color, but, you know, I don't always see things so one-sided. I tend to kind of center my thoughts. I'm an American. And again, according to this flag, it was important that they said this. The slaves and the descendants, that's me, are Americans. There's no separation. I'm just reading what they did. These are the creators of this symbol. No separation. So if there's a thought that there is a separation, well, that's not accurate. This is a learning moment. This is really just a day of learning. It doesn't matter whether you celebrate it or not. It's just a day of learning. I've learned a lot. I didn't know the general was an educator. That's a big thing to me. I mean, honestly, when you learn things, you just want to tell people, share it with them. You know, I'm free, you're free, and I don't think freedom can truly exist until everybody's free. Period. I don't think it's possible. And by the way, as I'm thinking about this, I come from a military family. Father was in the Air Force. My son is serving in the Air Force. My grandfather served in the Navy during the Korean War. I mentioned I was a very spoiled child, so didn't nobody come to me talking about no military. You know, we talked about college, went to college, but me leaving home, my mama, to go and have somebody other than my father holler at me, I just wasn't with that. But, you know, I love my country. I love my country. You know, and July 4th celebrates the independence of a nation, you know, from another country. And this is a celebration of true freedom of all enslaved people. You know, there's a connection. You know, it all makes sense to me. I mean, this is America. We're a huge melting pot. I don't think anybody in here, I mean, everybody has some type of heritage, whether it's Irish or Jewish or Asian, Hispanic, Russian, Polish. And I guarantee you this, if there was a recognition of a new holiday for somebody of a Polish descent and the stuff they went through, or listen, think about this. What about our Japanese American brothers and sisters who went through these crazy things during wartime, these camps and things like that? And what if there was a day to commemorate their struggle? That's cool with me. It happened. How do you celebrate something like that? I don't know. They would have to tell me, right? I'm flexible. I don't know. We have a lot of freedom in this country to even have this forum, and it's a special thing. What if you were free and you didn't know it? Isn't that what we tell when we're trying to get students into this college? Isn't it, honestly, isn't that what we're saying when we're saying, come, educate yourself? We'll pay for it. Why? Why are we trying to get them in here? Because we want them to know that education is freedom. And no matter the job of anybody in this room, that's the goal. It's a big deal. Whether you're a professor or a custodian. I was a custodian for years. I make good money. You know, I loved it, loved what I did. It doesn't matter. It's all based upon that principle that education is freedom, and you need it, and you got to get it, and we want you here to get it. So, you know, that's Juneteenth. I don't really know, you know, I know the college, Vance-Granville Community College, has some resources online. I was talking to Dr. Rachel about this, where you can do a deeper dive into it. And there are some interesting facts as well. But at the end of the day, June 19th, 1865, was a day when a general in the Union Army came to Texas to let everybody know they were free. And again, keep in mind, it still took another year for that message to reach the whole state. So, really, June 19th is the day we celebrate. That's cool. I have no issue with that. But people still weren't free. You know, and I say that not to nitpick, but, you know, just think about that. A whole nother year. So some people, after the Emancipation Proclamation, it wasn't 2.5 years, it was actually 3.5 years. And I imagine if I was a slave, any day of freedom was priceless. And that's Juneteenth. You know, I think, honestly, I think what happens is in this country, and I'll close it down, but in this country, you know, we like to go at it. You'll see it at the city council meetings, you know, county commissioner meetings. It gets very interesting. You know, I don't like to really go at it too often. I kind of play my position, try to find solutions for the citizens. That's a good day. But we're like that. And I think what the issue is, it is that word freedom. We're concerned that somebody's taking our freedom to speak, freedom to choose, freedom to act, freedom to carry, freedom of choice. But what I really think is the largest freedom we have is the freedom of dialogue. This is it. Somebody can watch this and be like, I'm still not celebrating Juneteenth. It's not about the celebration. This is about knowing what happened and why. Why would the president sign this into law? Why would we as a city put a local law on the books to commemorate Juneteenth? It's for recognition. For recognition. As we recognize and more fully understand Juneteenth, let us remember that although slaves in young America were emancipated by a proclamation, freedom did not truly exist for the enslaved until all slaves were informed that they had been freed. So, on this day, on June 19th, you know, even if you don't celebrate it, even if you don't have the traditional things that you can eat or drink, you've been educated. I've been educated. I didn't know. I didn't know everything. I didn't know, right? But I know now, right? And I recognize it. So, you know, when there's a celebration or an event, I get it. I get it. It's cool. Nothing wrong with that. Thank y'all for what y'all do to educate, to give people the freedom to make better choices in their lives. I'm grateful to Dr. Rachel. I see Mr. Abdul, Dr. Antonio, everybody, Danny. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend, regardless of what you do for Juneteenth. You know, we have some great information, and we can share it and spread it. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to stand in and to relay that message. Y'all have a wonderful day.
So, thank you, Councilman Spriggs. So we will be at a Juneteenth festival. Some of us in this room are going to be participating in that because Vance-Granville goes where the people are. And we are a college where everyone belongs. To quote Fannie Lou Hamer, the famous civil rights activist, "Nobody's free until everybody's free." To me, Juneteenth is important because it completes July 4th. It's a time to acknowledge there was a time when not all Americans were free, and it's a time to celebrate the freedom of all Americans. If you are joining us today on main campus or viewing this presentation at one of our other campuses, we now invite you to enjoy some treats and mingle with one another before you depart. I want to thank you for joining us today. And this concludes our inaugural observance of Juneteenth at Vance-Granville. Thank you.